welcome to the Lawyer Life Podcast, where we seek to navigate our days with a little less stress and ideally a lot more fulfillment. In this season 3, we focus on small and big changes that will advance our well-being, personal and professional lives. On today's episode, we discuss commitment. We're asking ourselves, how do we deeply commit to the important stuff and let the rest go? I'm Mike Anderson.
And I'm Darlene Tonelli.
Hello. Which hello was that, do you think? Was that Lionel Richie or Adele?
I would have bet Adele.
Yeah, that was my Adele hello. Yeah.
It was. Okay, I want to hear the rest.
Ding, 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 ding.
I want to hear the rest of the song from Mike Anderson.
I don't know what the next lyrics are. Yeah.
Wow. You need to watch the video. It's good good stuff.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Hello, Darlene.
Happy Friday.
Oh,
excited
Mike.
to chat. This is going to be an exciting episode because we're wrapping up our high performance season and reporting on our challenges and talking about a topic that is very near and dear to me. And in prepping for the podcast, I realized maybe like one of the key concepts that ties all this stuff together. So why don't you?
It's commitment.
Commitment. Yes. Spoiler.
Commitment is the thing that ties all this together. Well done, Darlene.
Mm-hmm.
Great way to finish this season. Again, this is the high performance season where we're building a foundation, focusing on our personal values and strengths, avoiding ego-driven decisions, trying to keep things simple, cultivating relationships, setting and keeping our focus, developing leadership, and keeping a daily wellness practice, as we talked about last week with Rachel Shipper. Great episode, super fun and organized. Love Rachel.
Yeah.
She left us with a challenge.
Right.
Tapping. Tap it in. Remember that?
Yes.
Madison?
Yes. Are you going to...
No, sorry. Happy Gilmore.
The golf Adam Sandler movie. Okay. Yeah. Do you want to go first?
I do. Well, I'll go first, and I'll just say that ties in very well with this week's topic. Tried it, and it fell off the radar for me. I was not committed. And I'm sorry, Rachel, you can be disappointed in me. I enjoyed it when I did it. I did it a couple times, like the day or two after the podcast. But then I took on a new daily routine piece that I've really started to enjoy. I'll update you, the listener. I'll update you on that probably in a couple weeks after I know it's something I really like. But anyway, that kind of took up the bandwidth of me trying something new. So I didn't do a lot of tapping, and I'm sorry. Everybody.
Well, it's okay to try it and figure out it's not your thing. I tried it. What I learned was it was useful to be like it helps you be in your body and not get your thoughts going off in another direction. Right. Mm-hmm. It sort of gives you something to focus on. So to me, it's like the similar effect to having a meditation, the same tape or whatever it is that gets you into the zone, something to focus on to keep your thoughts quiet. That's what I found interesting. So I found it was a pretty fast state changer. Like there was one time where I was quite mentally in a file and having to go pick up my son. Uh-huh. And I tried it in that moment just to like change the channel, as I like to say. And that it worked. And it was like 5 seconds, I think, is what I had time to do. I'm certain that it would have looked very strange in the car outside the school. So if anyone saw that.
Yeah.
But I think it was worth trying. So I think with wellness and with finding your own practice, try the stuff. If it doesn't work, that's fine. There's something else. There's 8 million things that we can be doing. So that's my experience. So thank you for the challenge, Rachel. That was an interesting one. Yeah. And then, I don't think we'll have a challenge after today because it's going to be the last episode.
It's so sad.
I feel like we'll still give ourselves challenges. We're like constitutionally incapable of not constantly working on challenges.
That's true. It feels like the last day of school a little bit, you know?
I mean, we're trying to make things manageable as it's just not an endless discussion of the topic. This is always going to influence our thinking. But, to have 12 episodes pretty targeted, can come back to them. The thing I find about this work, this personal work, is that you start like toe in the water. And then as you get into it, you kind of go, oh yeah, okay, now I'm more into this. Now I can relate to episode 4, where when I heard episode 4, I was like, forget it. It's sort of that kind of stuff. So it's a slow build.
Yeah.
So let's do today.
Today's topic is commitment. One of the pieces of content that brought us to this topic is a great article from zenhabits.net. It's called "The Heartbreaking Effects of Being Only Partly Committed to Most Things."
Mhm.
And the first sentence is a good one. If we're absolutely honest with ourselves, most of us are only half committed to most things. In many cases, much less than half committed.
Love this. This was like oh, I just think this is such a powerful line and ties together so much of what we're talking about. This is the blogger, pretty well known blogger. He's also an author. The blog is called Zen Habits, and his name is Leo Babauta, and he's a person who sort of changed his life using a bunch of productivity tips in the beginning, and started as a productivity blogger, and then realized that trying to do more was sort of a path to a place he didn't want to be. And, he tells his story better, but now he focuses on Zen, minimalism, how to simplify, how to be mindful. And I find the post very helpful. So this one, when I saw the title, I thought, oh, fantastic timing, because this really puts together what I've realized from the high performance season, which is there are some things that we talked about, and there are some things that I aspire to commit to, like I find that as you level
Yeah.
up, you do strangely increase your capacity to take on new things, not decrease for some reason. You do take on more and more in a positive way, though. And I think for me, what I've realized is there are certain things about me that I will always be committed to. And then there are things that are way harder for me to commit to. So when I read this, I thought, I think I've
Mhm.
been judging myself against some strange standards, and we should talk about that before anyone leaves the season thinking, oh my God, so much work.
Yeah. And it's a very good point. And I think it's very easy to get exhausted by the endless things you feel like you need
Mm-hmm.
to do. And especially if you're a high performing person, it used to be that, like, the high performing person does well at their job, period. And that was kind of the marker of success and the expectation. Oh, you're a high performer because you're great at your job, you have a good title, finish. And now it is, you're a high performer because you're great at your job, you have a great title, you also are involved in your family life, you volunteer in the community, and have this amazing self-care routine and wellness practice, and all this sort of all-encompassing set of responsibilities that are kind of foisted upon you if you are a high performing person and want to continue to aspire to be that. And I'm sure if you're that person listening to this podcast, this season might have done a bit
Mm-hmm.
of that, of 12 episodes of, hey, here's more ways you can work on yourself, can probably seem like more to add to the to-do list. But I think today what we're saying is, hopefully you've tried some of this stuff over the course of the last few months, and you've hit on a few things that really work. And that's the stuff that, dive into that and be committed to that. And some of the stuff, maybe as I said about tapping or whatever, some of the stuff that just doesn't really, like, hit you at its core, you can let it go, and that's fine. And that's, I think, what the great thing that this article brings forward.
Yeah, and I think what I took from it, or what I was looking at my own life, which is just sort of the learning, it's where I start from. And I would say that from our episodes, I mean, we did some episodes on removing junk media, for example. I don't have any of that. Like, that's
Yeah.
not a commitment that I need to work on daily anymore. And I mean, I don't know that it ever was really something that was hard for me, because it just is something I'm not that into. But it's not there. Like, and what I realized in figuring out what I'm actually committed to, my calendar is a pretty good indicator. Like, if I look at my calendar, there are, you know, it shows what I really care about without needing to be pushed. Rachel talked about, she puts everything in her calendar, or it doesn't get done, and I think there's something to be said for that too. But I more mean, My calendar is the accurate reflection of what I'm prioritizing. So, this month I have been prioritizing a morning workout. It's not in my calendar, but it's there mentally. Like I don't have it physically added to my calendar, but it's a daily there. 4 days a week was my
The
goal.
chunk of time is carved out.
The chunk of time is carved out. It's daily. I am doing a daily action towards that. So it's effectively in my calendar. But other than that, like things that are in my calendar for work and personal, my calendar really tells the story of what I'm committed to. I'm very committed and have been my whole life to relationship building and relationships. So if someone needs me, or there's an interesting person that I would love to include in my orbit or find a way to work with, or whether that's a client or a lawyer or a nonprofit or anything like that, they're in my calendar. So that shows I'm committed to that. That might be, maybe that's an overcommitment sometimes versus should be reined in. These are the questions we have to ask ourselves, but it's in there. The other thing that's really in my calendar is being there for things that are important to my kids. Those are in my calendar. So I think that the first step is what's actually today in the calendar. What have you committed? Like your calendar tells the story, or your week, or however people organize themselves, your planner, whatever. What's in there? That's what you're committed to today. It's like, okay, here's where I'm at. Here's what I do well. And these things that I'm doing, I'm actually committed to. So that's good. These things over here, I'm not committed to. I don't know why they're in my calendar. Why are these things in my calendar? They're taking me away from my goals. What are the things I really deeply want to commit to? So that's the big question. And I think I've come up with some ideas on what I want to commit to following this season. But before I jump into that, what do you think of this calendar thing? Does that speak to you?
Well, I think that I'm aligned. It's more, for me, it's more about reflecting on how I'm spending my time, which is, I think, more or less what you're saying.
Right.
I think I'm speaking a little bit less to like for me, like my calendar does have a lot of the stuff that I will do for the day, for sure. I don't really schedule the fact that it's not
Like
physically
pickup.
my calendar that come 5 o'clock. The pickups have to be done and we're home and stuff like that. But well taken. For me, and this season has helped me evaluate being conscious of the time that I do feel like I'm wasting. Or that I'm not enjoying and I'm like, okay, what is that? And then let's get rid of that. So I agree with you that if you really evaluate what your day looks like and the times in the day that didn't feel right to you, that's a good indicator that it's something. If you can get rid of that obligation or whatever is occupying that space of time, probably good for you. Not only because you're not feeling disease during that time, but also it opens up for things you actually want to be committed to. And I think that on that point, just because it's in your calendar or just because you are taking time with something actually doesn't mean that you're committed to it.
Right.
It just means that you're there and you have to deal with it. And so I think that's one thing
Good point.
that hopefully we can get out of this conversation and out of all the work we've done over the past 12 episodes is that if we're able to strip down our responsibilities in our day, we will be more likely to actually show up for the stuff we're doing. As pointed out in the article, a great line. We make a commitment at work to our team, a client, a partner, but we often don't fully show up. We get distracted. We procrastinate. We're only in it half as much of the time. We do the same thing to the people we love. We're only half there for them. So I think what's a good thing to focus on, and what's the utility of focusing on full commitment, and how can we get there? Well, we strip away the stuff that we can strip away to the extent it doesn't work for us, and that allows us energy wise, focus wise, to actually be present and enjoying and deeply committed to the stuff that we want to keep in the schedule, or keep spending time on. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's where we go. So my looking at the calendar is more, say that a person looks at their calendar and is like, man, all I have in here is work. Literally, that's it. I don't do anything else. That's an interesting thing to observe. Like if all you're committed to is work, that if that's all you're committed to, that's, I guess, what it is. It is what it is. But then you have to devote some time to making sure you can keep that up if that's the priority, and that's the wellness piece. So I do 100% agree that there is, if you look at your calendar and there's a bunch of junk in there, you have to consider, like, why is this in here? And also, does it get me where I'm going? Because the other thing we've talked about a lot is goals. And if your goals are to this year bill the most hours you've ever billed, just to use a lawyerly example, and your calendar is full of non-billable things, those things are
Mhm.
opposite and are going to lead to frustration. So, it's a useful little inventory to do all the time, just to say, okay, where am I at against my goals? What is my calendar looking like? What are the chances I'm going to hit this goal? And the other thing I would say is, the interesting thing about committing is, I think as lawyers, we talked about this a bit with Rachel, and it got me thinking through the week. I think as lawyers, we're very black or white. We're very commit or you don't, right? And I think that what we're saying on this episode is you should commit. However, I think that a commitment can be a big picture over time, long term thing, as opposed to like today, this week. So it's doing the daily actions, but towards a long term commitment, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm more of a fan as well. As like I have a friend, for example, who like the switch is either on or off
Right.
when it comes to a
Right.
goal. It's either like, for example, people do this all the time with alcohol, right?
Yes.
It's, I'm going to reduce my alcohol intake. I want to drink less this year. And so then what they think then they impose on themselves, well, for this whole month, I'm not going to touch alcohol, right? And if I do, that is a failure and I have failed.
Right.
I'm more of a like, I'm not a switch on and off person. Okay, what does that mean today? And then the next day and so on, and building like progressively toward a goal. And I think that's one of the things that's a helpful way to look at this, like starting with small commitments and not just jumping in. As you said in our last episode, I want to be physically active, so I'm going to run a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's, you don't have to do that. It can just be going for a walk, and you can just commit to going for a walk at lunch every day. And that's a great way to start being committed to a thing that's now important to you. And I think as type A people, and I think that, sorry to cut you off, this is obviously where you're going, I hope, but, but we're so inclined to be like, okay, well, I need to be the best at whatever I'm spending time on. And so that means I have to do it at 100%, in terms of success, and not just on fulfilling the actual need that you have.
I was just listening to an interview with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson earlier this week on Oprah's Super Soul Conversations, which was a great interview. And he has just talked about how his gym that's his thing. That's how he
Yeah.
does his connection to himself and works on himself. And, he keeps getting in better and better and better shape from his perspective, and probably everyone else's in the world, through his life. And it's a build. That's one way of being well and being fit. But it doesn't have to be the only way. I mean, just adding up all the hours you've invested in a project in your life makes you feel a little bit like, okay, well, this is something, this is good. I've been focusing on wellness for, a good chunk of my life, and I can improve. I find that a more peaceful way to think about things than, oh God, look at that person over there. That person's here every day, and they're like clearly have the results to demonstrate that, which I think is way more how people look at things at the gym. I look at both people. I look at the people that maybe go less and the people that go more, and I try to just be like, we're all doing our thing.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
Yeah.
for me, that's a helpful way to look at it, as opposed to like, this week I didn't make it.
And I would imagine that your goals are wholly different from the person at the gym who is
Yes,
looking like, you're
that's
not
right.
looking like The Rock or close to, right? So it's an absurd thing.
No, my goals are totally the same as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's workout goals.
Yeah.
That's 100% what I'm going for here.
But maybe I'm putting this on all type A people, and it's just a thing that I have. But I think that's a common thing. Again, to think of yourself as a high performer, it's very easy to think I need to be the best at everything I touch. So I need to look like the most fit person at the gym. I need to, be the smartest and most well-read person in my book club. I need to, constantly be at the upper echelon of all of these things. And the reality is you don't. And that is probably counter to if you are focused on wellness and having this, nice fulfilled life. That's not going to help in the end. It's about just doing the stuff that brings you joy and letting that be it.
Yeah. And like check your commitment level and what are you committed to? And I think what I realized in doing this exercise is like, I'm committed to being well and physically healthy. That's what I'm committed to. I'm not committed to upending my life to how, and I've had, greater and lesser focus on fitness throughout my life. But, I'm not committed right now to having a super rigid food plan and exercise plan and, with goals and numbers. And that's not my commitment right now at all.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't compare myself or feel like that's not, like that's a worthy goal, but it doesn't mean that it's the only fitness goal that people can have.
Yeah.
So I don't know, just kind of being aware that whenever you're looking at other people, you're looking at them in a like that, the person who at the gym looks like they're totally committed to fitness. Maybe that's just the last 2 months or something, or a year, like you don't know, and you don't know what it will be for them next month.
And also, like, their life is totally different than yours. It's so, maybe it's really important that they're there 3 hours every night for them for whatever reason. And it's likewise very important for you that you're home with your kids for 2 hours and 15 minutes. And 45 is at the gym, whatever. Like, I think one of the nice bits that I've learned from this podcast constantly, every conversation we have, guests and otherwise, it's like everything comes down to what the individual needs. Everything is about what's best for you personally. And it's very easy to lose that in this sort of constant quest for being a high performer and self-improvement and so on, because you get these recommendations, these programs, these offerings, and it seems like it's a one-stop shop for being great, but actually it's more of a buffet, and you pick and choose what you need in the quantities that you need it, and so on. And that ultimately is showing commitment to the things that work for you and letting go and not committing to the stuff that doesn't. And if you do that, you will be wholly and fully deeply committed to the stuff that gets you the best results. And that is an exciting opportunity. That means you're like fully investing in the stuff that's going to pay the most dividends for you. And hopefully throughout the season and moving forward, hopefully you all have the opportunity to do that with some of the stuff that our guests and the texts that we've read and so on have brought forward.
Great summary. Fantastic.
Oh, Mike,
you've obviously
summary.
Committed to doing great summaries, because that's a real talent.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that, Darlene. I am so deeply committed in my work recently to like being built on simplicity and clarity and summary and all that stuff. And I'm loving it. So it's actually in the most geeky way, very true. I've found a thing that I really like and that I'm good at, and I'm diving in head first with it. And it seems like our clients are quite happy with that. And it's just like, it's a whole new thing for me. It's very exciting. Yeah.
Putting in the work. That's the cool thing too. Like when you actually put in the work, you can see results, right? Like if you try to be good at everything, you don't get the results. So this is, talking about it every week has certainly been helpful in keeping that top of mind and committed.
Absolutely. And speaking of practice, I have a good that is directly related to a huge amount of practice, and I can't wait to talk about it. So with that, why don't we go to an ad, and we'll come back with our goods and grapes.
Sounds good.
The Lawyer Life podcast is brought to you by Inter Alia Law. Inter Alia lawyers have big firm training, in-house experience, and a wide range of expertise in technology, media, and entertainment. Our advice is business-focused, speedy, and practical. To learn more, visit interalialaw.com. That's INTERALIA-law.com.
And we are back with our goods and gripes. Goods are things we want to promote and support, and gripes are things that annoy us. I have to talk about my good.
Okay.
That I just can't. Oh, so just love it.
What is it?
And it is a hit sensation. You probably heard about already. The Netflix show Cheer.
No.
Have you heard about?
I
this
only hear about Netflix things on this podcast.
So. Okay, well, there you go. From me.
Yes, from you.
Okay. So the story is this. This week, I was painting the baseboards in our living room where the TV is, and my wife put on this show in the background. So it was in the background for me. I had to put down the paintbrush and sit there and watch it in full.
What is it about?
It's about one of the leading junior colleges in the U.S. They're the best cheerleading squad almost every year. That win national competitions, and it's about this. They start from the beginning of the season, and you watch these people progress, men and women, all different backgrounds. Just the most saddening stories of the difficulties they had in their childhood and whatever. They've made it. They're some of the best in the country at cheerleading. And you watch them put together this very difficult program and get to nationals. And it is just it's the best. I think I cried 3 times.
Wow.
There's Jerry, this guy named Jerry, I just love. Yeah. And so now they're it's kind of becoming a pop sensation, and they're doing interviews on Entertainment Tonight and stuff. Oh, but it's great. And they're such hard workers and so dedicated. And we could talk about maybe they overdo it a bit, and maybe, there's injuries, and they're sacrificing so much in their life. There's a wellness conversation to be had.
Right.
But, oh my gosh, great show. Wonderful. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Oh my God. Well, this leads to a little known Darlene fact that one of my favorite movies of all time is Bring It On.
I thought you were going to say that you were a cheerleader, and no. I was about to fall out of my chair. Oh my gosh.
No.
Also, can I just
we
say,
don't have those in Canada, do we? I mean, we didn't have them when I was going through.
Yeah. One of the people on this team is from Canada. Oh. Actually, Canada. I just said it someone from Montreal or something.
You totally did.
Can I just say also, I know I'm going off, but my goodness, these people, men and women that cheerlead are athletes. They're not these stand by and be perfect people. And I think that in terms of commitment on the topic, you see these amazing world-class athletes that have to go to the community barbecue to stand there and look pretty. That should not be their job.
No.
They need to stop doing that and focus on the fact that they're elite athletes, because it that needs to end. And I think it just fulfills stereotypes and so on. That's the one thing that really got my goat.
Well, I agree with you.
Going off.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. I really noticed that as a thing. I mean, obviously. And the other thing is cheerleaders are wildly underpaid considering the
we're not paid at all.
We're not paid.
Sometimes.
It's volunteer. It's the ultimate devaluing of extremely incredible athleticism. And I did notice that because when I saw Justin Timberlake on tour maybe a year or two ago, and all of his backup dancers were a mix of men and women, but they were all normally clothed. They were wearing overalls and stuff. It wasn't, I was so, it was unusual to see. I was oh my God, those are women who are just showcasing their amazing dance abilities. That's really interesting to me. Uh-huh. I like that he did that. And I noticed it. I don't know if everyone else noticed it. But I thought it was good. And I mean, that does, your point is well taken. I think that as we approach Super Bowl weekend, maybe we can all ponder that a little bit through the weekend. It's a really good point. But yeah, I loved Bring It On. Man, that is a great movie.
Well, if you love Bring It On, you will not sleep and just stay up all night and watch this show because it is.
I'm on it.
Fantastic.
This is my new my thing to watch over the next while. Okay, so my good is interesting. I was having a conversation with another entertainment lawyer yesterday, and we were talking about punk songs, and randomly. And I just wanted to say that if anyone is struggling and wondering, you're in midlife, you're kind of wondering, going through the path or whatever corporate environment you're in, I would just say my little challenge for the pod listeners this week is to listen to a great punk or post-punk song while you're walking through these environments and just see if it lifts your spirits. It does for mine.
Okay.
I did it at the gym
Okay.
this morning. I was like, yes, these songs still sound great. And they're so, they're just counterculture. And it's interesting at a time like this to listen to sort of protest music or things that are suggesting that we question systems and the way things are. So
Yeah.
I listened to the Offspring Ignition album this morning, which is a favorite for me. I don't know. Do you know that album?
Wow.
It was probably like you weren't even born
Yeah.
yet.
I mean,
I don't know.
no, but my relationship to Offspring is being in my best friend's basement when I was like 7 or 8.
Oh my God.
And
7,
yeah.
8.
Well, I don't know,
That's
maybe
like
10.
other kids are
maybe
listening to
10. When did
Raffi?
it come out? When did the episode come out with
You mean the
Come Out and
main
Play?
one?
Remember that
The
song?
Self-Esteem and those ones. Yes, that was probably like 1993, 4.
Yeah, so in 9. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, 9 or 10.
Yes. Mhm.
And we just loved listening to it because of all the swear words in that one song.
Right.
And we would just sing it over and over again.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, same thing. Same for people in their 40s who are lawyering. I feel
Exactly.
like listening
It's
to
the same
someone yell
feeling.
swear words is just very freeing. So
You stupid.
I recommend it. Just get it done. The one that I like, though, is the album before the famous one, just to be clear and have the music credibility
before
intact.
they hit
No,
it
I
big,
love it. To be
obviously.
fair,
Yeah.
and for a
You like
lawyer,
their early stuff.
that's such a music person thing to say. Oh, anyway, so that's just
Right.
a sidebar. Anyway, grapes.
Okay. Okay. I don't want to be too heavy
Oh,
grape
it's
wise,
hard
but
not to be.
yesterday I had 3 different conversations with high performing women who are very generous and are givers and are hard workers. And all 3 were just in situations where people in the workplace were taking advantage of that and trading on it and counting on it without giving them recognition, whether financially, through title, through easy thank yous, whatever. And it's so upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, not to tease new seasons, but we're going to be focusing on, can I say what the new season's focus is? Yeah. So it's going to be about big ideas. And we have an episode lined up to talk about issues similar to that. And I'm very excited for it because I'm Mr. Privilege Central. I totally I'm the most privileged. I will totally acknowledge. I've been in positions like that to an extent. I couldn't imagine gender and race and other things being layered on top of that feeling, but it's so saddening. And there's just so many people in so many workplaces, not just lawyers, but all over the place, that are like the heartbeats of institutions, of companies, of organizations. And it's really hard on them. And that makes me gripey. That makes me upset.
We could do, can you earmark that for a whole episode on big ideas? Because I actually think a lot of that is solvable in the workplace. I really do. We're just not, the current model doesn't really reward always the right work, right? Like the things that are rewarded are sometimes not the right things. That would maybe be my gripe and a related gripe. I think, well, first things first, let's just say, as a lawyerly podcast, talking to privilege, I really think that it is such a privilege to practice law. And sometimes I have these weeks where I just think, wow, I look at what my friends are doing. Some of my friends are doing really, really important work, protecting Indigenous children and fighting for people's rights. And I mean, just really important work. And I feel real deep meaning in the work that I do for clients, helping them do what they need to do in life. Like, to me, this is just such a privilege to help out. And I want to put our podcast in that context, which is the reason we started doing this is not because we think lawyers as a class are this tough luck group, but more because we're interested in reorienting to just be like, find that, find the space in law where we can focus on that and tweak the business model, tweak the routines, like get the stuff done around the edges to make it possible to really appreciate what we're doing. And also train the new generation of lawyers, it's getting harder and harder to figure out how to do that. So that my gripe is just that I feel like, so there's good in the world, like there's good in the profession. And sometimes it's just under a bunch of like business model stuff that is terrible and chews people up and spits them out, or, causes stress or puts money over people. And that's the stuff that I feel gripey about, but I also feel positive about it, because I do think that what we're talking about and I think part of a much larger conversation, a small part, the Lawyer Life podcast, of a very big global conversation, is just people are looking at what's going to work in the future. And I don't think we know that. I really don't think we know that. So as I look at the world today, just to bring in some deep gripes, today is not a great day for the rule of law.
We're really going off the rails on this goods and gripes.
Today's not a great day for the rule of law in the world. But I have hope that although we can gripe about some of the current structures, I think the people, there are good people in here, and we're going to be able to improve if we just focus on it. So that's where I would go. So like a gripey good with hope.
Yeah. If we get the good people to listen to this full season of our podcast, they will be high performing good people. Right. And so the high performing good people will beat the low performing bad people.
Yes.
Let's get it
done. So if you know a lawyer that is a good person but struggles because of the business model, if you could please share with them the Lawyer Life Pod. Yeah. And also we should say we're trying to, although we've joked, or I not really joked, we raked Darlene over the coals about the lack of progress on social media. I am still trying to improve. So for those who enjoy the pod, if you could follow us on Instagram at Lawyer Life Pod, if that's your place, or on Twitter at Lawyer Life Pod, I think, it will be a motivator to me. Because I really would love to know what people like or want to hear more of on the pod. Whenever we hear from listeners, we try very hard to address it on the pod, almost real time. So if you have an issue or something you want to hear about in the next Big Ideas season, it doesn't have to be public. Happy to have a direct message, but get in touch. That would be awesome.
Bravo.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's it.
So with that, we will talk soon. Bye. That's it for this week's episode of LLP. Thanks to Inter Alia Law for presenting the podcast, and to Nick Fowler for composing and performing our music. See our show notes for his website. Don't forget, we love feedback. Please comment in the review section, or subscribe, or like. We'd appreciate it greatly. That's it. Talk soon.